Welcome. You're listening to This Leader, the podcast. If you lead people and are seeking the transformational, high-impact secrets that will lead to greater joy and fulfillment in your work, will optimize your team performance, and will help you create a happy, highly productive workplace, then you are this leader and you're in the right place. I'm your host, Claire Laughlin, and each week my guests and I will explore the mindsets, techniques, and actionable strategies that will help you build the career, team, and organization of your dreams. Because I believe no one should have to suffer in a dysfunctional workplace. Let's get started. Hi there. Welcome to This Leader. Something fascinating happened in one of my workshops last week. I was working with a room full of very engaged high performers, and we're talking about 30 really accomplished people. And I asked them what seemed like a simple question. I asked, how are you measured at work? What contributes to your success? Like literally, how are you measured? That was my question. And you know what happened? Silence. Blank stares. These talented, driven professionals who spend 40, 50, or more hours a week at work, they couldn't quickly articulate how their success was being measured. It was a powerful moment because it highlighted something that I see all the time. We are all so busy doing our work and doing good work that we rarely stop to ask if we're doing the right work. And here's what makes this even more critical right now. There's a lot of uncertainty in many organizations right now due to sudden shifts in federal funding. Many people are worried about their job security, and they're working harder than ever, but they're not even sure if they're working on what matters most. It can feel like you're running on a treadmill, like you're moving fast, using lots of energy, but not necessarily getting anywhere. And in times like these, that's particularly scary. But if you're scratching your head right now and wondering, wait, how am I measured? Then that's a good sign. It tells me that you care about making a real difference in your work. And I have certainly been there. In fact, everything about this episode has been absolutely real for me at different times in my career. And I've used all the tools that we're going to talk about here today to make really meaningful and significant shifts in the way I work and the value that I add. So today, I want to share some really powerful strategies with you that can help you shift from just being busy to truly adding strategic value in your role. Not by doing more, because let's be honest, you're probably doing plenty already. And I'll bet most of what you're doing is very important and strategic. But I'd like you to be more intentional, right? Just let's all be more intentional about how we contribute, and let's be able to succinctly describe the value that we bring to our roles, shall we? Because let's face it, being busy isn't unique. In fact, it's sort of just like a badge of honor. Oh, I'm so busy, but being busy doing the right things in high impact ways, that, my friend, is where you can really start adding undeniable value to your team and organization and really get that extra margin of success. So, getting clear on how you can add more value is a very powerful exercise, and it can really help you build resilience, especially if you're worried about the future of your role. I have found this incredibly helpful. I've used this at many times in my career just to gain real clarity and to help get back to the basics and to be able to describe my own role and the impact I aim to make and be able to sit down and have conversations with my managers, people who I work with, and along with the outcomes I'm achieving month by month and the strengths I'm bringing to the table. That's the key combination. So let's get started. All right, first things first, let's define your strategic value proposition, or your SVP. So I know strategic value proposition might sound like consultant speak, but stay with me here because this is actually about building clarity for yourself and having a really practical conversation with your manager about what matters most in your role. So sidebar, I'm going to talk a lot today about conversations you should have with your manager, because I think that if you assuming you have a manager, getting that alignment on what really matters is really powerful. But don't forget, you're also a leader. So having these conversations with your team is equally important. Okay, let me take you back to that workshop I was describing earlier. So, in that workshop, I introduced a tool that I learned from Korn Ferry a long time ago and that I use all the time with groups and even for my own role. And it's called the job pie exercise. It's beautifully simple and incredibly powerful. Here's how it works. First, think about what you do day to day and week to week and divide your role into its main components, like slices of a pie. For example, if you're a project manager, your pie might include slices for project execution or project work time in which you're actually doing the project work, right? And then there'll be a slice for team development, especially at the beginning of every project. There should be a slice for stakeholder management and communication, and I'm sure you'll want a slice for process improvement activities. And you'll probably also want a slice for your routine and or your administrative work. And I always like to recommend at least a small slice that's set aside for dealing with unexpected things or seizing unexpected opportunities. So once you have those major slices identified, and then this is the crucial part, you need to assign percentages to each slice based on how important it is to your success and how much time you ideally should be spending on it. Now, this is not how much time you're currently spending, but how much you should be spending for maximum impact in your role. So, for example, when you step back and you look at this pie, you might think, okay, I need about 10% of my pie for simple administrative duties, returning email, responding to requests, things like scheduling meetings. That's 4 hours a week if you're thinking about it in a standard 40-hour work week, right? So, is that enough? Well, only you really know. But if your administrative time is far exceeding what you think it should, then this gives you some food for thought. Like, how can you reduce time here in administrative work to make more time for some of your higher impact work? That's the strategic thinking I want you to be doing. So, in that project management example, I would think that you would want a hefty slice of job pie for project execution and another significant slice for both team development and stakeholder engagement. So, when I did this in my workshop the other day, the resounding feedback from everyone was that everyone needed a bigger pie. Can't you just make the pie bigger? They asked. Okay, so this indicates that we are not spending our time on the right activities. We're probably being attracted by the urgent or the easy and not carving out enough time for the really strategic work that is necessary for us to be truly impactful and add the most value in our role. If you really want to dig into this, you're going to want to track your time for real so that you can compare that ideal job pie that you just created to your real or actual job pie. This will give you amazing insight. It's crazy when we get under the hood, so to speak, and we can discover the myriad ways we are sort of wasting time, right? So to help you with this real-time analysis, I've created a tool called the TIE Tracker. That's TIE, and it stands for Time, Impact, and Energy. And you can download this from my website resource page at clairelaughlin.com. This simple tracker will help you assess how you spend your time, how much impact any given task makes overall, and it will help you gauge your energy related to different tasks, which in turn can help you figure out which activities are really leveraging your inherent genius and helping you add the most value and contribute what only you are uniquely qualified to contribute. So, once you've articulated your strategic time allocation with that ideal job pie, and you've assessed your real-time allocation by using the TIE tracker and creating a real job pie, you can see in visual terms just where your energy is going and how to make meaningful changes. When you've got a clear picture, schedule a one-to-one with your manager and review it. You can preface the meeting by saying, hey, I'd like to make sure I'm focusing my energy where it matters most. Can we talk about this strategic job pie I've created? I'd really like to hear your thoughts on the key components of my role and how you weigh their importance. Then, of course, discuss any gaps between how you're spending your time now and where you should be focusing and try to resolve those gaps. Identify any activities you can start, stop, or modify to better align with the real demands of your role. And finally, set up regular check ins, both with yourself and with your manager, to refine your approach. So, again, do this for your own role and do it with your team to create lots more clarity and to cut out the busy work and to help everybody contribute at their highest level. Now, let's move on to strategy number 2, which is to create clarity by developing quarterly action plans. So, now that you've got your job pie clarified and you understand the big picture about how you need to be spending your time in order to add maximum value in your role, we're going to turn that into specific quarterly action plans with clear outcomes. Here's how. First, use your job pie to help you list your key areas of responsibility. Okay, you've done that, right? Second, for each area or slice of pie, define 1 or 2 or maybe up to 5 specific outcomes for the quarter, or even use a monthly time frame if you prefer. It's up to you. Third, identify the metrics or evidence that will show that you're on track. How will you really know you're making progress? For example, how will you know you're making progress with, say, your stakeholder meetings? Is it the number of meetings that you have? Is it the quality of the communication? Is it the questions that you're being asked by your stakeholders? Try to identify some metrics to help show that you're making the right kind of progress. Okay. Fourth, schedule those monthly check-ins with your manager, as we discussed, to review your progress. This gives you real-time feedback on the value that you're adding in your role, and it brings that value clearly to the surface for your manager. And fifth, finally, use these conversations to adjust your focus as organizational needs change. When you break down each job pie area into quarterly outcomes, you create focus, clarity, and momentum. And you can adjust course as things change. And as I said, you get real-time, regular feedback on whether you're adding the right kind of value. So, of course, as I mentioned, do this for your own role and do it for your team as well. Now for strategy number 3, design your development pathway. Most organizations have funds available for employee development. If you don't know about these, you should go ask. Go ask your HR department or your training and development department. The challenge is that many people struggle to figure out what development would be most valuable for their role. So many leaders feel stuck in their professional growth, not because they don't want to grow, but because they haven't yet identified the right kind of educational opportunities. So if your organization has an education budget, I want to encourage you to make an annual development plan and focus on the skills that will make the biggest difference in your ability to add real value in your current role and in the next few roles you have in mind. Think ahead. This is especially true right now with the rapid changes that are arising as AI takes center stage. In fact, I've heard it said that AI won't immediately replace roles, but those in roles that know how to use AI to do the work will replace people who don't. Okay, keep that in mind. So this is where creating an annual development plan comes in, but not just the kind that sits in a drawer. I'm talking about a living document that connects your growth directly to your organization's needs. Here's how to approach this. The simple way is to look at your job pie and ask yourself, which slice would have the biggest impact if I got better at it? And then research specific learning opportunities in that area. Okay, that's really straightforward. The more comprehensive approach is what I call the strategic development blueprint. So here's the framework. 1, assess your current impact. Like, where are you already adding significant value? Where do you see the gaps between what's needed and what you can deliver? Okay, look for the places where you can improve. And what emerging organizational needs could you help address? Really powerful questions. Then identify growth opportunities. Look for that training that directly relates to your key responsibility areas. Consider certifications that would enhance your credibility and seek out mentoring or coaching relationships. Really powerful stuff. And then third, create a learning action plan. Choose 1 to 2 development priorities per quarter, depending on the scope of them, and link each learning goal to specific work outcomes. When you learn something, what will it help you get better at doing? And then schedule regular reflection time to apply what you're learning and make sure it's moving the needle. Now, I want to acknowledge something important here. I know that if you're feeling uncertain about your job, it might seem counterintuitive to focus on development or to have these strategic conversations. You might be thinking, shouldn't I just keep my head down and work harder? Fly below the radar type thing? But here's what I've seen time and again. The people who really thrive during uncertain times are not just those who work harder. They're the ones who actively work smarter by being intentional about their contribution. Think about it this way. By clarifying your value proposition, building a clear quarterly action plan, and investing in your development, you're not just improving your current performance. You're building your professional resilience, making yourself even more valuable, not just to your current organization, but to any organization. And remember, adding value isn't about doing more. It's about being intentional about what you do and how you do it. It's about understanding what matters most and focusing your energy there. So here's what I want you to consider. Which of these strategies resonates most with where you are right now? Could you start just one conversation this week, maybe about your job pie or your quarterly action plan or your development path? Think it through, do your pre-work, and schedule a conversation with your manager and or with your team. So that's it for today. If this episode helped you, please share it with another leader who could benefit. And don't forget to visit my website for additional resources. But one more thing before I go. I really want you to stay tuned because I've got a free masterclass coming up right away that is going to help you address some of the things we've talked about here today. I don't want to spoil the surprise, but just be sure to stay tuned. There's more coming soon. Thanks for listening. And until next week, go lead the way. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. To learn more about my services and for lots of free resources and additional tools to enrich your journey, visit my website and subscribe to my newsletter at clairelaughlin.com. If you have a question about leadership, teams, or organizational culture you'd like me to address on the podcast, please reach out to me at support@clairelaughlin.com and connect with me on social channels @Claire Laughlin Consulting. Until next time, lead the way.